Well, today on the program, our conversation is going to be on achieving gender-driven growth. Now, we know that a lot of international agencies have tried to promote gender growth as much as possible. And recently, at the just concluded World Economic Forum meeting in Davos Switzerland, there was several sessions as well that actually focused on this. Well, to continue this conversation with me here in the studios, I'm being joined on the program by Toki Mabugunje. She is a business development consultant and a principal partner of Toki Mabugunje and Company, and she's also the vice president, Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Thank you so much, Mrs. Mabugunje, for joining us.
Thank you.
And then we have here with us also the first vice president, NECA's Networks of Entrepreneurial Women, Fayo Williams. Mrs. Williams, thank you so much for coming this morning.
You're most welcome and Happy New Year.
Oh, thank you. Yes, this is the first time we're seeing you this year.
That's right.
Well, you're welcome to the program. Let's talk about gender-driven growth. When we talk about gender-driven growth, what comes to your mind?
Okay. Toki, you can take off.
I should take off. Okay.
Right
what comes to my mind is that policy is directed by how it will affect women and their growth and their prosperity. It's about process, how processes will help make that happen. It's about structure, how the structures will be put in place so that they are user-friendly for women and don't provide a limitation or barrier to their growth.
And I agree with her. And further to that, I think gender-driven growth means inclusion, socially, politically, and economically. You know, we've had several studies. We've had a study from Growth and Empowerment in States saying women own only about 3% of land, and yet we're 51% of the population. We all know the challenges of women getting vocational training, being able to do that, you know, in a seamless way, being able to access finance. Thank God things are beginning to change a little. But honestly, even what Sherry Blair said at Davos, it's too little. The growth rate is really small. You had 16% of the participants at the last World Economic Forum being women, and this year it's just 17%. That's growth of 1%. You know, is it that
the women are not making any moves to try to be part of this growth process, or the situations or the policies that we have are not encouraging more women to be participatory in this growth?
I think it's both. To the women themselves, I would say we have to change our mindset. And I'll just give you a little analogy here. I had a young lady come work with me, and within a week of her resumption, we were to go and set up a training at Ekpe. And she just came back the next day, while we were planning and discussing, and said her family said she mustn't travel. I said, travel? This is within Lagos State. You'll know somewhere new, we'll all be there, about a team of 5. She said, no, she wouldn't be able to do that. I said, okay, she's just come. Let's allow her to settle down. Another month, we were to go to Badagry. And this same lady came back and said, her family said she mustn't leave the office. She should only come to the office.
What was the issue?
So it's like, she's been limited culturally. And this happens, I'm sure Toki will probably have issues like this where women are being restricted. They're not allowed to fly and become leaders. Remember Sheryl Sandberg in, Facebook? Her hand was actually thrown into her face to get her to keep quiet. And Christine Lagarde, who rose to become the IMF boss right now, while she was being interviewed, a management staff told her, I hope you know you wouldn't become a partner, you're a woman. So that management staff is eating his words right now.
Toki, you're a principal partner of Toki Mabugunje and Company. Have you faced this kind of discrimination when you go out, that you're a woman, and so because you're a woman you can't participate in this kind of meetings? It's a men's only kind of a gathering.
I need to say that, one, because I don't focus on those kind of statements, I don't pay them much attention. But generally, we're all women in Nigeria. Women are the butt of most male jokes. And in most situations, there's a dominance of men. So there will always be a joke about a woman. At least I take it to be a joke. Now, when it starts to be evident, for example, last year, the stock exchange had introduced their ASEM at Muson Center. and they had a panel of, don't quote me, I don't know whether it was 11 or, but they were all
Male.
They were all men. And so at the end of it, when there was question and answer, I had to stand up and ask that, please, is it that there isn't a single woman who can contribute to this conversation? That even that token woman is not seated on stage.
So in other words, everybody,
so
they feel that women can't contribute to such issues that as regards leadership or as regards how to control financial matters.
There may be people who think about, who actually believe that, but I think others are not even focused on it. And that's why I'm beginning to feel that some of the suggestions that were made in Davos, for example, there will now have to be quotas. Because if there isn't a quota, there's nothing to measure to do anything. So if you start to have quotas for women, oh, we want 30% in the legislature, or we want 50% here.
But of course, we remember that we've actually, there has actually been talk.
% affirmative action, but we are not seeing it on ground. You know, boards are being announced every day. Okay, the power board that has just been announced. Sorry, how many women do we have on that board? Everybody's silent.
So I think the quota thing is important. The affirmative action is important because it forces one to action. It forces policymakers to action.
Let's talk about the competitiveness of how when we have,
competitiveness.
At least we have it. If we have gender parity,
yes, that's
how important is it to the competitiveness of any nation? Let's take our own example.
It is extremely important. For instance, we have about 50 or 51%. Of the population being women here in Nigeria. So if you are focusing only on the men, that means already you have a 50% scorecard, in terms of economic development, in terms of competitiveness, in terms of creation, innovation, driving the economy. So we need to have both male and female being brought up to speed. Women need to be encouraged, for instance, in technology. We have 20 to 30% less women in that area. I was at an IT conference in Ghana, and in the entire hall of about 105, you could count the number of women on one hand. And that was an eye-opener for me. An international IT conference. It was really bad. So even in Nigeria, we need to find policies and make the environment conducive. Yesterday, I was monitoring a talk show on how women get pregnant at work and sometimes they get fired. One woman had put in 7 years of good work, gotten rave reviews, and when she got pregnant, she was fired. So these are the kind of things government needs to look into. What are the policies that we even have for women right now? Apart from the 35% affirmative action, I cannot really put my tab on any other. We need to have more policies that would enable women contribute and also fulfill their societal roles.
You see, it begs for attention that some people will begin to think that women don't know their place anymore as caregivers, as the home nurturers and the rest of it. They want to now be to sit at the same table with men who are supposed to be the heads of the family, and so they feel that that's where you have the cultural and the traditional taboo thing coming in. Why should a woman want to come out of the kitchen to come and sit at the table to make decisions? What can she contribute?
She has a lot of skills, but
it's interesting because the world evolves.
Oh yes,
right. So as we are today, we're different from those who were living in the forests and in the trees
and hanging.
So even the men who used to be hunters and gatherers, they are no longer hunters and gatherers.
So we have to move.
So we're growing and evolving to a situation where societies have become democratized, and in becoming democratized, we talk about equal rights. And we talk about equal rights, we have to start to look at the youth, we have to start to look at the women, we have to start to look at those who are challenged.
That's right.
And have an inclusive society, inclusive policies, so that everybody has an opportunity. So this is where we're going now. Because that is where we're going, mindsets have to change, behavior has to change. Already economics, economics is a very strong driver. It's forcing a lot of things. Many men who would like their wives to be in the kitchen have no choice but to have a second income in the family.
That's right.
Economics has forced it. Not because they like it, but they have no other choice.
Yes,
now, why
because-
don't we move beyond that and begin to see that, okay, this gender also contributes economically? And really, if you look at the rural areas,
The women are still
they are the ones
working.
driving the
Oh, yes.
economies there now. So we need to acknowledge their contributions.
Yes.